Hey everybody, Justin here. Before we begin, I just wanted to point out that we completely forgot to talk about the character of Katana, played by Karen Fukuhara, which is a bummer because she's a cool character. She's a good actress. She's on The Boys, which is a show on Amazon, which you haven't watched. It's really good. You should check it out. But yeah, I feel like her character was kind of underutilized in the movie. She shows up kind of late. They mention who she is. She cuts some bad guys with her swords, or with her sword. But other than that, she doesn't do a whole lot. She does, they mention the sword and how it captures the souls of her victims, which I thought was really cool. And then they don't ever really do anything with that. They talk about how her husband's soul is in the sword, but otherwise, I think she just was, underutilized. So maybe that's part of the reason why we forgot to talk about her. But anyway, I felt kind of bad that we forgot about that character. So I thought I'd throw this little intro in the beginning. And so anyway, enjoy the episode. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Superheroes, Movies, and Superhero Movies. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzo.
And today we're talking about Suicide Squad, released in 2016, written and directed by David Ayer, and starring Will Smith, Margot Robbie, Viola Davis, Jai Courtney, Jay Hernandez, Cara Delevingne, Joel Kinnaman. I'm going to get this name super wrong, but Adewale Akinnuye Agbaje, I think is how you say it, and Jared Leto as the Joker. This was the third film, technically, in the what is now kind of known as the DC Extended Universe. I don't think that was ever actually the official kind of name, like the Marvel. I don't know why we just didn't call it the DC Cinematic Universe, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but whatever. It became known as the DC Extended Universe, and this was the first movie released after Batman vs. Superman. Actually released the same year as Batman vs. Superman. I think Batman vs. Superman was released in March. This was released, I think, in August. And did not do super well, just like Batman vs. Superman. Was panned pretty hard, I think, by critics. Actually, I don't know for sure. I'd be interested to look up the Rotten Tomatoes score because I think the score is higher than Batman vs. Superman. But I could be wrong.
Okay.
But I saw this movie in the theater. You didn't see this in the theater, did you, John?
No, I did not. I typically just do the at-home theater now, unless like Endgame. Obviously, I went and saw that in the theater. Star Wars, movies I would see, but yeah, I typically and the DC universe. I was not enough to where I was like, if I don't see it in the theater, I'm going to be missing out.
Right.
Especially Suicide Squad. I was just not sold on Suicide Squad because the first image of Jared Leto as the Joker, I about fainted.
Right.
And then the trailer came out, and it didn't
solidified it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will definitely get into Joker and talking about his look and performance and all that stuff. But before, I was actually thinking that this movie had a higher Rotten Tomato score than Batman vs. Superman, but I was incorrect. Batman vs. Superman has a 28%, and Suicide Squad has a 26%.
Batman v Superman has a 28%.
Yeah. The audience score for Batman vs. Superman is 62%, and the audience score for this is 59%. So audiences like this movie, well, I guess critics like Batman vs. Superman a little more too, but not by much. But yeah, this was I think for me, I mean, seeing Jared Leto as Joker was cool. Like, just getting a new version of Joker and a new actor playing Joker was kind of exciting. But I think for me, the biggest draw for me to want to see this movie was the first live-action Harley Quinn, played by Margot Robbie. Did you know anything about, like, the Suicide Squad before this movie came out?
No, I was watching the movie this time and wondering if it had been created for this movie.
No, it hadn't.
I didn't think it had, but go ahead.
It's been around for a little while, and I didn't really know too much about Suicide Squad, except for they mentioned the Suicide Squad on Smallville. Amanda Waller was a character on Smallville, and Deadshot, I think, was character on Smallville, and I think they even hinted at Harley Quinn on the show, even though she wasn't. I think it was like she was behind this door. You might have heard like a laugh that was kind of supposed to be her or something like that.
Right.
But I didn't. When I saw it on Smallville, I didn't think anything of it. I didn't realize it was like an actual thing. I thought it was kind of like what you were saying, like they had made it up for Smallville or something. But then there was an animated movie that was set in the Arkham Asylum, Arkham City games, called Batman Assault on Arkham, and it was basically a Suicide Squad movie. It had Harley and Deadshot, and
when did that come out?
that was 2009 or 10, maybe, something like that.
So was it good? Because that's around the time DC was putting out good stuff.
Good animated movies. Yeah, it was good. I liked it. I've been meaning to
see
rewatch
that.
it. Yeah. It had it doesn't have all the same characters as this movie, but it has like Deadshot and Harley, I think, are the only two characters that are, or Captain Boomerang might be in it too. Because I feel like Captain Boomerang is kind of a staple of the Suicide Squad. But yeah, it was a good movie. You should definitely check it out.
Okay. Sounds
So-
like a plan.
Was this the first time you had seen this movie?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Because I did start it at one point in the past, but I turned it off because I was like, I'm not enjoying it, and I'm just gonna stop wasting my time.
At what point did you turn it off? Do you remember?
It was probably maybe the halfway mark, if that.
Okay, so you made it farther than I thought.
They were going through the city.
Oh, like they were like already on their mission.
Yeah. Because the subway. No, you know what? I take that back because I think it was around the time that I saw the subway scene where, what's his name?
I don't
The
know
god.
that. Yeah, I don't actually know that guy's name. I know it's Enchantress's brother,
Right.
but
So
I don't actually know the character's
Let's look
name.
that up so
Sure.
we're not just calling him
Enchantress's brother. But I don't know.
He's got like it's not a hard name. It's like a short name, I think.
Yeah, Incubus, that's his name. Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be easy to remember.
Sure. Well, I saw this movie in the theater. So what were you? Why did you bring up? Oh, that's where you stopped when Incubus is kind of formed. That's where you stopped watching the movie.
Yeah,
Subway.
like right. Because I don't even remember seeing Incubus. Like this was the first time I saw him. So I think when he does like that weird arm thing,
Yeah.
and like it just goes down the subway chute,
Mm-hmm.
like I think I thought that was like a giant worm or something. I don't know, and I was like, whatever, I'm done.
That's funny.
So I don't know. That's my guess.
You made it farther than I thought. I thought you had like started it, and as soon like the first Joker scene, I just assumed you were like, nope,
I
can't do it.
saw the whole thing where he jumps in the acid, like
Right,
and that's
yeah.
several scenes in because he's in it, especially at the beginning, so much more than one I expected and two remembered.
Mm.
Because I thought he was going to be more of like and he was. It was. I mean, he was more in like 7 or 8 scenes, I guess, but I guess I was expecting more like 3, and for them to be not back to back and kind of shorter than they were.
Right.
Because I was expecting this was going to be more of a setup for Jared Leto,
Sure.
and in a way, it was.
And I actually think there was a lot of stuff of his that was cut out. Because it was,
this time I watched the theatrical. So is that
Right.
the one you watched?
Yeah, I watched the theatrical this time around too. I've seen the extended version, and there is an additional Joker scene in the extended version. It doesn't add a whole lot, but I think
That doesn't surprise me.
the extended version isn't necessarily even like the director's cut, because that's by the time this episode airs, the Zack Snyder Justice League will have already come out, and hopefully we'll have done an episode on it. But David Ayer, now that there's some distance between the movie release and there's the new Suicide Squad movie coming out, basically David Ayer, the writer and director of this movie, has kind of come out and said that he's not super happy with how this movie came out, and that there was a lot of studio interference with it, and that the cut of the movie that has come out is not necessarily the cut of the movie that he would have preferred that we had seen. So now there's, I don't think it's going to have nearly the same kind of momentum as release the Snyder cut, But there are people on Twitter and whatnot with release the Ayer cut. They want to see David Ayer's version of Suicide Squad. And now that we're actually getting, and like I said, by the time this episode comes out, we will have gotten Zack Snyder's Justice League. I would actually be kind of interested in seeing David Ayer's version of this movie just to see how it is. I've heard a lot of different kind of rumors, like the beginning of the movie actually would have opened up with Dr. June Moon in the jungle, like discovering the artifact. It wouldn't have had all these weird. I mean, that's one of my complaints about this movie is that it's like all the characters have like 3 introductions in this movie. Like the beginning of the movie starts off with Will Smith. He's punching bag in Belle Reve or whatever it's called, and then we see Harley Quinn.
Right,
and
then, it does like the typical like early 2000s action indie like like intro to the characters,
right?
And it's
and then we cut to Amanda Waller, and then
Right.
she kind of gives them an introduction when she's talking to the politician
right.
guys.
Yeah, you're right.
And it cuts to Deadshot, and we get to see kind of him doing his hitman thing, and then it cuts to Harley Quinn, and that's the scene with Joker in Common. And then again later when they actually show up at the prison, Amanda Waller and Rick Flag show up at the prison, then like we kind of get another, we see Deadshot firing his gun. It's like it's I don't know, it's kind of, I remember when the movie came out, a lot of people said they hated the editing, and it's not, I don't think it's the, I mean, I guess that's the way, I guess that's how you would call it, the editing, but it's just the way the movie was told. It's the storytelling format really than the editing.
Yeah,
I
can see how them having 3 introductions could have actually been studio interference, because the studio was definitely marketing this as a visually, like rebellious movie.
Right.
Like story-wise, but you also had just that, like I was saying, examples come to mind, Fight Club, Snatch, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Trying to give it that vibe. And when you have that long to introduce these characters, that could definitely have taken away from stuff, but story and stuff. Now, do you want to start talking about the Joker? Let's go ahead.
We could just jump right into.
Let's jump right into the Joker.
Sure. I don't hate this version of the Joker. I don't necessarily love it either. It's probably my least favorite live action. Well, it definitely is my least favorite live action version of the Joker. But I do also appreciate the fact that they tried to do something different. I don't mind his performance. Sometimes I feel like Jared Leto's performance, you can just kind of tell it's a performance. It's very different than Heath Ledger, where Heath Ledger, he was the Joker. Like you couldn't tell that was Heath Ledger acting at any moment really in that movie. He was,
yeah, it was the Joker,
right? But in this movie, I mean, for the most part, he does. I think he does a decent job. But then there's a couple of times where he's a little too over the top, or he's a little, I don't know, it seems a little forced, his performance.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you. I myself, it's not just his performance though, like just the whole
Aesthetic,
image of the Joker, in my opinion, is absurd. I'm just gonna be honest.
Sure, that's fine, and that's one of the things I said. I don't necessarily like it, but I also don't hate it, and I also appreciate that they tried to do something different. They tried to give us a
and
Joker
I get that
we've never seen before, and they didn't.
But I also don't want to be like, oh well, hey, we need something different than the Joker, so why don't you give us something like different that you haven't done before? That's how we got the Joker in. Though it wasn't a serious cartoon or anything, but obviously you had never seen anything like the Joker that was portrayed in, what was that cartoon show? Was it The Batman?
Yeah.
And it was like,
where he had like the long hair and the
yeah. And anyway, I don't like the idea of saying, well, we need a different Joker because Heath Ledger's Joker was different, and it's okay to be traditional Joker too.
Sure.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree that I also don't want to say don't ever try to do something different with the Joker. It's just this was a road that I don't think is anything that the Joker should have ever even been around. I get, maybe trying to go with the mafia, trying to get him more into the mafia style, the modern mafia, I guess. So I get it, but I don't like it.
Sure. I do think that some of it I think it's David Ayer just putting his own kind of spin on it. But I also think that some of it is pulled from the comics. There is, in some of the modern comics, I think there is a version of Joker who did have tattoos. Maybe not quite like they are in this movie, but he had. Mm-hmm. I can remember seeing like a cover of an issue, and Joker has like a giant like back dragon tattoo or something like that on the on his back. His hairstyle, I think, is similar to a version of the comics. The grill, I actually kind of almost like the grill because it gives him, Joker kind of notoriously has like the yellow teeth,
Right.
And even though they're not yellow, it kind of gives it that kind of just an interesting kind of look. I think Jared Leto kind of looks the part. I think if they hadn't done the tattoos and they hadn't done, maybe the grill and done, I think if they had done a more traditional looking Joker, Jared Leto actually would look very good as the Joker, and I think he does.
He could. He's got such a soft face, though. Like especially for this Joker, like he's to me, it just doesn't mesh. But I definitely, it's an interesting thing that you mentioned about the teeth and the grill, and I will admit that if I have to watch this Joker on the screen, mm-hmm. then with everything else they did with him, I'll take the grill with it. If that makes any sense.
That's funny. Here's another bit about studio interference that I believe I heard from David Ayer on Twitter. He would tweet about this stuff occasionally. The damage tattoo on the Joker. Supposedly, I guess David Ayer's idea behind that was when Joker killed Robin, Batman like essentially beat him half to death, and so Joker being crazy and weird after that because he had been beaten, bloodied, decided to tattoo damaged on his forehead. That was like his, I don't know, way to remember that, I guess, or something. But then they ended up messing with that idea, that was never put in the movie. That was never stated in the movie. That was just something David Ayer said that was his like kind of thought process behind that tattoo. But then in the movie, if you notice when Harley Quinn is being introduced, when Amanda Waller is kind of talking to the politicians at the beginning, real quick on the screen, it says Harley Quinn, and then it says accomplice to the death of Robin. So then it kind of throws that whole thing off because
he has it during the interview.
Yeah, he has it when he's meeting Harleen Quinzel at
okay.
Arkham Asylum. So, somebody asked David Ayer about that, I think, on Twitter, and he said that wasn't his idea. That was put in later by the studio or something like that. So, so just stuff like that. The studio, I guess, had their hands a lot in this movie. Another thing that I read was, the black, like, bubbly faced,
yes.
The people that get turned into those weird monsters. Those originally, I guess in the original script, it was nothing that ever ended up getting shot. But in the original script, those were going to be parademons. And this was going to kind of tie into
interesting. Justice
League and Darkseid and all that stuff. And then for some reason, the studio decided against that and had it changed. So I guess one thing about these movies is DC / Warner Brothers, just they're not really sure what they want to do with their movies and seem to be making poor decisions, I guess. But
they just can't come to
they don't have a Kevin Feige like Marvel does that can see the big picture kind of.
Exactly. Yeah. They don't have a path that they're like, okay, we need to go from here to here. And they're not consistent.
Right.
Like they keep changing things around. And they rushed it.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't. No, I think if they had done it right, even though they were so far behind, that was their problem. Is they felt like they had to catch up.
They had to catch up to Marvel, yeah.
And if they had just taken their time with it, who knows?
Yeah, and I think, who knows? But I think if they had taken their time with it, like you said, and done what Marvel did, which was, had a Superman movie and then had a Batman movie or had a Wonder Woman movie.
Right.
And then over the course of a few years brought them together, I think the excitement and it would have been so much better than, not that I personally love Batman vs Superman. I'm glad we got that movie, but it definitely, the whole...
Yeah, there's no wait for it.
Right. The whole Man of Steel to Justice League thing was very rushed.
It was like, here's your Superman movie, which a lot of people didn't like, but a lot of people, didn't dislike it.
Right.
And then they're like, okay, now we're going to give you Batman and Superman.
Right.
Yeah. Immediately. So.
And as much as I love the movie, I do think it is weird that we had a Superman introduction film and then we went right into like older Batman. We went right into a loose adaptation of Dark Knight Returns, which is old Batman, and I don't know. It was kind of strange. You'd think it would have been a younger Batman because Superman is new and
I
that
think
type of thing. But
that the whole Dark Knight was that's why they did it, was because they wanted to do. Batman has been at that point even had been done a lot.
Yeah.
And they're like, what have we
wanted
not done?
to do something different?
Yeah, and exactly.
Sure.
And we want to go dark. We want to stay dark because of Heath Ledger. That was a very dark movie. Let's keep that route. And I mean, obviously they wanted that route because they made Man of Steel dark. So,
and that's why we ended up with the Justice League we did, because so many people started to and I say so many people, but I guess I don't know if it was critics or what, but people were complaining that these DC movies are just so dark.
Yeah.
And so then they thought, well, Marvel's movies are nice and light and have jokes and whatnot, so we got to do that for Justice League. And that's where the reshoots happen. They bring in Joss Whedon and all that stuff. But anyway, this is Suicide Squad. But since we are talking about Batman, Batman is in this movie.
He is.
And those are actually a couple of my favorite scenes of the movie. Actually, probably my favorite shot in the whole movie is when Deadshot and his daughter are like walking down the alley and Batman
very cool
drops down. Like, it just looks very Batman-esque.
It was very neat.
Yeah.
Now, there's also a part in that movie that's one of my least favorites, and it's when she jumps in front of her dad getting ready to shoot Batman. It took me out.
Yeah.
And anyway, I didn't see why she would jump in front of Batman.
Yeah, and I don't. Maybe that's comic accurate. I don't know. I know who Deadshot is, and I've seen him in movies
I can
and
see
stuff,
it happening in a comic. Yeah.
Right. I don't know if Deadshot's daughter, because it is weird in this movie that like Deadshot's daughter is like, I know you kill people, but you're a good dad or something like.
And there's also something weird that happens at the end when anyway, remember he starts thinking about his daughter.
Yeah.
And she's like, "No, don't do this." And
yeah. Enchantress gets into his brain. He's about to I think.
Oh,
he's
is that
shoot.
her doing that? Okay.
Yeah.
It did not make any. I didn't catch that, and I was like, "Why would he?" Anyway, okay.
Because when they first get in there, Enchantress shows them like what they want, and it shows
right.
Deadshot shooting Batman. And it shows Harley Quinn marrying Jared Leto. It was just Jared Leto. It wasn't the Joker, which I always thought was kind of weird.
It was a very weird scene.
And
I was like, why would she even want that anyway? Like, I think Harley Quinn has other dreams besides that, but I could be wrong.
I don't know. And then Joel, it shows Rick Flag with June, and it shows Pyro with his family, and Pyro's the first one to kind of break out of that trance because his family's dead, and so he knows that it's not real. And so it's Enchantress is able to get into their brains, and so when he's about to shoot, I forget what he's supposed to, if he's shooting the bomb or what he's shooting, but he's about to make the shot, and she gets into his brain as his daughter saying, "Don't shoot. You know, the only way we can be together is if you don't shoot." It's just Enchantress trying to psych him out, basically.
I thought it was just him thinking about, like, remembering, like,
her standing in front of Batman.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, threw him off, and I was like, but why would she? Okay,
yeah,
got it.
But then I thought you were going to mention at the end of the movie, like, he's helping her with his homework, and she's like, "So if you're shooting a guy from here, and you've got to figure out the hypotenuse," and he's like, "Yeah, that's right." Blah blah blah. I was like, "This is just a weird relationship," and I was like, maybe, like I said, maybe it's comic accurate, where the daughter is totally fine with her dad being a hitman, but at the same time doesn't want him to shoot Batman.
Right.
I don't know. And I like the scene with this is another one that I kind of like but kind of don't like. I like the scene with Batman chasing down the Joker and jumping into the water and saving Harley Quinn. But at the same time, I don't know if I totally love
I did too, actually. I was really surprised because I thought that that was one moment where I was like, okay, that was very Jokery, where he, like, he drove off intentionally, correct? Yes.
Yeah.
And then her line I loved, which was, I don't, like, she's like, "Puddin', I can't swim."
Yeah.
And you can see the fear in her face, and Joker, like, has
doesn't
just
care.
Yeah, he's just abandoned her.
And he gets out of the car and swims off or something, I guess, because he just leaves her there. And I think that was another thing they got cut out of this movie. And I think it would have been, I actually really loved the end of this movie.
Real quick, I was going to say, what I wish they had done with that is, instead of him just swimming off,
yeah,
and she wakes up and like slashes,
tries to stab,
which was cool. But I was hoping that, I thought it would have been a better idea to portray the Joker that he did that and was willing to use her as bait. And even if she died, and then he come down and try to kill Batman while Batman was trying to save Harley Quinn. But that didn't happen.
Right. He just left her.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, I think in the original version of this movie, the Joker and Harley, it was a very, because I believe it is a very abusive relationship, very unhealthy relationship, I guess you could say. And I think, I don't know how, because we don't see a whole lot of that in this movie. There's a little bit of it in the extended cut, that additional scene with Joker. It's before she's actually becomes Harley Quinn. She's still Harleen Quinzel, so it would be before the acid scene. She, like, chases him down on a motorcycle, and they have a conversation kind of outside the car, and he's weird to her. But anyway, I think that whole abusive relationship type of scenario was explored more in the original version, and a lot of his stuff was cut out. And but I'm curious if having all that in there would have kind of diminished the ending, which is where Joker breaks into the prison and says, "Let's go home." He goes into Harley Quinn's cell and goes, "Let's go home." I actually really like that ending. I think that ending's pretty cool. But if he had been, totally abusive and horrible to her the whole movie, would we have actually liked that ending, or would that have been the ending?
Right.
Was that a different? Was that added later or something? I don't know. So yeah, I'd be very curious to see the kind of the original cut of this movie. And according to David Ayer, there wouldn't have to be anything, like, how with Zack Snyder they ended up putting some money into it because it had unfinished effects, and they actually did end up reshooting or just shooting additional stuff. According to David Ayer, it's done. They wouldn't have to. It wouldn't cost them any money. They could just release it. So I assume his original cut has all the special effects and everything. It's just they took it away from him and recut it and then put it out.
There's a moment, I don't remember what it was, where I did like how it did a good job of showing how the Joker truly felt about her, or at least to a degree. There's a moment where he stops, I think, and he goes back to save her.
It's the acid scene, right? She drops into the acid.
That's it. You're correct. Yeah.
And he turns away like, okay, that's done. And then he kind of thinks about it, and he's like,
yes.
And he takes off his coat and he jumps into the acid. Yeah.
Yes. I liked that scene. I thought that was a neat little thing there that I'll give the movie and say
Sure.
that, and the Joker, and say
Yeah.
that I liked that moment.
Yeah, and you know,
It made the connection real. You know,
Right.
the fact that he goes and saves her in the helicopter was also a moment where I remember thinking, this is kind of cool, because it's they're shooting up everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you care about her, like, you don't, because you're shooting everywhere. You're not even trying to make sure you don't hit her.
Right.
But then he sends her a message. And I accepted that because I was like, he knows, for one, he's insane.
Right.
But he truly believes that she's safe right now. Like, he's not like thinking I could have hit her. He has faith that she got to where she needed to be so that he could do his thing. And then
she can come out.
Then he tells her, now guns are still going.
Right.
And she has to have that leap of faith moment herself where she's like, he said come, I can go. And she runs out and jumps, and I really liked that whole thing.
Yeah, actually, that's one of my favorite scenes too.
Yeah.
And I like that he's wearing the tux. I like how he looks when he's shooting the gun and everything. Like that, I think is very Joker-esque, and I think they did a good job with that scene. Yeah, I like that scene a lot, actually. And then I like how Deadshot, he's supposed to kill her, and I like how
Right.
Amanda Waller is like, shoot that woman, and he's like, nah, she didn't do anything to me. And then Amanda Waller spits out some deal saying, I can't remember what she says, something about probably his daughter or something, you know. And he's like, oh, she's dead. Like, he's like, that. Those were the magic words.
Right.
But he had started to make kind of this connection with her, or with, his team, I guess you could say, and couldn't pull the trigger, pun intended. He did pull the trigger, but he missed on
and
purpose.
you saw the team kind of at the beginning. They did not like. They obviously liked her because they liked watching her change.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as listening to her talk, they didn't until they thought she died. Remember?
Yeah.
And then she's like,
no, that was after this.
Was
because
it?
because she gets on that helicopter, and then the helicopter gets shot down, and that's when they think she's dead.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, so that's the moment. Yeah, so you're right. So Deadshot right before that says that, and then you have that moment where they think she's dead. They find her, and I don't remember if anyone said anything or you could just feel it, which really would have been, I'll give them credit if you could just feel it, but you could sense that they were happy that she was okay.
Yeah.
It was kind of a sigh of relief for the team.
Right.
So yeah, I'll give the movie that too. I think I've gone up half a star since we've been talking.
You might have. I mean, it's one of those movies where it's not a great movie, but there's pieces of it that I enjoy, and that's one of them. That scene is one of them. I like Will Smith as Deadshot. I think he's I like him in the movie too. I think he does a good job as Deadshot, and I like that opening scene of him doing the one hit that we kind of see, where the guy hasn't paid him and he's
right,
and he finally does.
That's a very Will Smith scene, by the way.
Right. But I liked it. And I like.
Well, Will Smith is a fun actor to watch, and I think he obviously brought what he's been doing for years to this, and he's one of the stronger actors of the movie, because I thought there was some acting that I didn't like. Amanda Waller.
Yeah.
I did not like her intro when she's having the meeting with
politicians or general or whatever it is.
Yeah. I that whole scene to me felt so flat, and I was like, I just don't like her acting. And then there's a scene right after that where she's having the briefing with the people around the table, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought she did well in there. It was very short, but so it was interesting to watch Is it Viola or Viola?
Viola.
Viola. It was interesting to watch Viola Davis through the movie because I don't know if it was the directing or what, because like I said, I haven't seen her in anything else except Doubt, but I don't remember her in the movie. But there were some scenes where I really liked her acting, and then it was like almost like the other scenes where I didn't. It was like I didn't. There was no middle ground. It was kind of weird.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, I don't have a problem with her in this movie. I think she plays Amanda Waller pretty well, and I've seen her in a bunch of different things, and she's always good. So I never really disliked her in this movie at all.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, let's talk about some of the other team members. Captain Boomerang.
I was gonna say he also, to me, was a big weak link.
Oh, really?
Yes. He kind of annoyed me. Honestly.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I think Captain Boomerang might be kind of an annoying character, but I actually really liked the look of his character. You know, I think he's got like a gold tooth, and he looks just kind of grungy and whatnot, and he's always drinking a beer and stuff. I like that. I also like too when they rip him out of that like body bag, he immediately stands up and just punches the first person he sees. I kind of like that.
Yes, I will agree that was pretty funny.
My favorite moment with him is actually later in the movie, and I really wish that he just so my favorite moment is when they're all sitting at the bar. You know, they've poured themselves drinks, and Rick Flag comes in and he smashes the like touch panel thing that has the bomb activation in their necks or in their heads, wherever it is. I guess it's in their neck. He smashes it on the bar and he goes, "You're all free to go." And Captain Boomerang immediately just grabs his beer, gets up from the bar and walks out.
And who was the other one that was it? It wasn't Harley, was it?
No, everybody stays except for him.
Well, there was one other person that was like thinking about it, and I thought they both stopped at the same time. Am I wrong?
I don't know, but I mean, Captain Boomerang actually gets up and walks out.
Does
and
he? That's funny.
I think it would have been even better if he had just never come back in the movie, but like he had just legit walked away. I think that would have been perfect.
Yeah, I agree.
But instead, like they have their little conversation at the bar. And then it shows them, and they all like decide, okay, we're gonna do this. And it shows them walking down the street, and Captain Boomerang comes in and rejoins the group.
Yeah, no, you're right. That would have been hilarious. And then have like a post credits, just little thing of him.
Yeah, of him somewhere
at a bar
a beer or whatever. Yeah, something doing whatever.
Another bar.
I think that would have been great.
Yeah, I agree. So Diablo is, I think, the strongest actor.
Jay Hernandez, yeah.
I honestly, yeah, I think his performance was more memorable to me than even Will Smith. I thought he did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I like Diablo,
especially later on, like because he's kind of mysterious in the beginning, and then you learn his story as it goes on, and you really see the emotion come out. Later on, he does a good job.
Yeah, and I like how he's unwilling to use his power in the beginning. You know,
right.
He uses a little bit, puts the word "bye" in the air and stuff like that. But when they're first fighting dudes and everything, he's unwilling to join in, and I think that was kind of cool. And I've seen some complaints about him about how like he kind of accepts the team as his new family a little too quickly. But I mean, it's a 2-hour movie, and we got to get going. You know what I mean? So it doesn't bother me, and it never really has bothered me. I am fine with it, and I kind of go with it. But yeah, I like him in this movie. I think I like the character. I think the actor's good playing him. Yeah, Diablo is actually kind of one of my favorite characters, I think.
Yeah, and I agree, and it really wasn't, like I said, until towards the end where you had gotten a sense of the character that happened, because at the beginning he was kind of appeared like he might almost be a throwaway, just the guy that shoots fire.
Right, yeah.
But they did so much more with him, so I give him that as well.
Speaking of throwaway, that's one of the notes I wrote, was that I wish, Slipknot was essentially a throwaway character. And I wish that they had introduced Slipknot in the beginning. Like, made him seem like he was going to be a part of the team for a while. and then kill him off. I think it would have, because like when he's introduced so late, you know he's gonna die. You know what I mean? Like you know
Well,
he's gonna
the
be
whole
the first
thing
one
was-
that's killed off.
The whole thing to me was really dumb because
Right.
it was like you said, you know he's gonna die, and it was like one, who was it that convinced him?
It was Boomerang.
Yeah,
Captain Boomerang.
So, and he just automatically is like, yeah, I'm willing to bet my
Yeah,
life like this
Let's go
guy
with
is.
it. Yeah.
And the whole reason I believe the scene was even done was just to show the audience real quick that this guy's not kidding around, that they actually do have explosives in their necks.
That's exactly. I mean, that's the only reason that character was in the
And I'm
movie.
like, why? Well, one, why did you even need to let the audience know that? Like, let the suspense be there. Like, let the audience wonder, are they doing this for no reason? But no, they kill off a character to let you know that they have explosives in their neck and that they're telling the truth.
Right.
It was.
Well, I think that would have been. I mean, if you're going to go that route, if you're going to kill one character off with the explosive to tell the audience, yes, they're serious. They did put explosives in their neck.
Mm-hmm.
I think it just would have been stronger if Slipknot had been a part of the group from the beginning. He had been at Belle Reve or whatever with,
Right.
with Deadshot and Harley and stuff, and we had kind of seen what he can do. You know, he has like maybe the kind of the training or not training montage, but you know, like the scene where Deadshot's shooting the guns and stuff. Like, have a scene with him showing what he can kind of do, and then have it just be his decision. Be like, I'm out of here, you know, and try to escape when stuff starts getting real and his head gets blown off. I think it would have been more impactful rather than being like, here's all these characters. This is the Suicide Squad.
Right.
Oh, and this guy's Slipknot. like,
Exactly.
That part didn't work at all for me, and that's one I wish they had done that differently. But so yeah, he was definitely a throwaway character. What about Killer Croc? How do you feel about Killer Croc?
I'm not a big fan.
Yeah.
Personally. Especially like look his face I'm okay with. I love the like eyelids, the like reptilian eyelids. I thought that was cool. The teeth, facial wise, I think he was okay. Then they show him later and he's so small.
Yeah.
And I did not like that. Like, to me, Killer Croc is huge.
Right.
Like, bigger than, he's like Juggernaut big.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of go back and, I mean, like, I've seen, like, if you play the Batman Arkham games, like, he's, like, monstrously big in that movie, or in that game. But then on, like, Batman the Animated Series, he's not nearly
but he's
that
still
big. He's still big. He's still bigger than he is in this movie, but he's not that big.
Correct.
I would say he's smaller. He's smaller than Juggernaut in the animated series, but
yeah, but he's
still imposing.
Like, Batman has to look up. Like, yeah, he like towers over Batman, if I'm not mistaken. Like, I think Batman like is, if he's standing in front of him, would like be looking at his chest.
Yes, that might be accurate. Yes, yeah, he's probably about like. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think if you were to stand them side by side, Batman probably comes up to like his chest area.
Yeah,
and
like the top of Batman's head might be like to his neck.
Right. So I appreciate that they did it with practical effects.
Agreed. Yes.
They could have done it, with motion capture and made him a huge monster kind of guy, which I think we're going to see some of that. Killer Croc is not in the new Suicide Squad, but like King Shark is, and I'm pretty sure that's like a motion capture.
Right.
And
so yeah, since you put it like that, that is true, because I definitely would prefer practical effects, and
but I think they could have also made him a little bigger.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't make him
his
like
arms
necessarily
were
taller,
very thin. Like,
yeah.
Anyway.
It almost makes it look like his head is too big for his body. Like, I think they should have given him kind of like almost like a muscle suit underneath the effects or whatever, and then just beefed him up a little bit more. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
made him a little bulkier.
It's Killer Croc.
Killer Croc, right? Exactly.
So,
but I do like the look of it. I think his face, like you said, looks good, and I love that it's practical effects. So yeah, I like Killer Croc.
I did like his line too when he said he was beautiful. That made me laugh.
Yeah. I like too that when they're making the requests at the end of the movie, Harley says she wants an espresso machine, and Deadshot says he wants time with his daughter, and then Killer Croc just says he wants BET, and then it shows him at the end of the movie like in his sewer cell, and they've got the TV in the corner, and he's just like loving the music. That's watching the music video on BET. That made me laugh. Yeah, and I think that's pretty much the team. Rick Flag. Rick Flag was originally supposed to be played by Tom Hardy, but he had to drop out because of I think he was shooting The Revenant.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He either had to do reshoots for The Revenant or The Revenant just took longer and he had to drop out of Suicide Squad. But I thought it was interesting because, like, Rick Flag, really, there's not a whole lot of meat to that character either.
There's not.
He's.
And before I saw this movie, because like I said, I didn't know who the Suicide Squad was.
Right.
And I thought Flag was, like, one of the bad guys.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it just sounded like...
Because of Randall Flag.
Oh, yeah.
Stephen King.
Right. Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, I didn't know anything about Rick Flag either. Rick Flag's actually going to be in the new one. Same actor. But he's like the leader, I guess you could say, but he's also not.
Yeah, he's kind of like the guy's like, okay, we got to go.
Right, yeah.
It's like basically because I noticed that actually. I forgot what it was, but a lot of his lines are just, okay, we got to get going. So he's kind of like the guy that's like, we're taking the scene we're in now and we're leaving the scene because we have things to do. Right. And I'm letting everyone know that we got to go.
And he's also Enchantress's girlfriend or boyfriend, excuse me.
So he's like the one that's most interested in making
June
sure
back.
that she stays safe.
Right.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, yeah, so I don't... It seemed like an interesting role for Tom Hardy to agree to, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe, like I said, in the original script, maybe he had more to it or something. I don't know. But Joel Kinnaman's not bad in the role. I think he does kind of one of those... I think he does kind of one of those southern accents that's not great, but it's not necessarily bad either, you know. But yeah, I no real complaints about his character or his performance. What about Enchantress? What do you think about that performance? Actress?
I'm not a big fan of her acting. I know that she's primarily a model,
right?
And especially when it's what's her name?
When she's the doctor?
Yeah.
June Moon?
Yes. Like, they're just...
Yeah, I would actually agree with that. Like, I actually think her performance as June Moon is actually kind of not as good as her performance as Enchantress.
Right, and her performance as Enchantress is just voiceover.
Right.
I'm curious if it was even her doing the voice of Enchantress.
It might not have been. I mean, she had kind of the physical movements and stuff she was doing as Enchantress, but yeah, other than that, I think they might have dubbed over her voice.
Well, they definitely did because there's an effect to it.
Right, but is it her doing that voice, or is it somebody else?
Exactly. Yeah. It almost is like they put that in there to cover up that. But then again, you never really hear her talk anyway, and she's not a famous actress where you're like, oh, that's not what's her name, Cara Delevingne or
Delevingne, I think.
Yeah,
or something like that. Yeah, and I haven't really seen her in too much else either. I know she's done a couple movies, but I don't think I've seen them. Yeah, so I don't, Enchantress is kind of a weird bad guy too. You know, she's got Incubus, who seems to be the bigger threat, and she's got, I don't even know really. See, this is the other problem with the movie, I think, is I don't really know what they were attempting to do. They opened some portal that was.
They were trying to destroy the world. Because
that was all it was. They were that portal was eventually going to swallow everything whole.
She just said we need I don't remember exactly what she said, but it was basically like, now that we're here, we can destroy everyone. It's something to do with like she was asking, didn't they ask something about if people were still worshiping something or? Yeah,
I remember when Incubus kind of first wakes up.
Right.
He asks where they are, and she's like, "It's the same world, just much later."
Right.
And he might have said something like that about.
Yeah,
Do
and
they
that's when
still-
she's so that was their plan, was just wipe out humanity, and I don't know why. I don't remember if they said why or not, but if they did, it wasn't important. I can tell you that.
Yeah. I mean, it was I don't remember it being explained, and I mean, obviously I was just asking what the big portal was. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, so that to me was a little I don't know. It just wasn't like the biggest motivation. It just seemed like these guys had to come in and stop them because they were destroying Midway City. And maybe eventually the world, but yeah, not the greatest villain kind of.
No.
What's the word I'm looking for? Not backstory, but motivation, I guess you could say. Yeah.
Also, why? So when she possesses Dr. Moon,
Yeah.
why did she just leave her heart in the cave for Waller to get?
I don't know. That's a great question. I also, one of the notes I wrote was Dr. June Moon is not a very good archaeologist because she finds this ancient artifact, and the first thing she does is break it, which then is what like has Enchantress possess her. It's like, no, I don't think many archaeologists really go find artifacts and just like break them open. But what do I know?
I've been searching for this thing for years. I found it.
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna break its head off. Yeah, I don't know, and and maybe that's another. Maybe I just don't know enough about Enchantress, but I don't know why her heart was separate and why she left it in the cave to be found later by Waller. And
I'm
team.
wondering if there's something to that thing she broke, where maybe there was something in history, the history books, that maybe there's something inside it, and that's what she was looking for.
That's why she was breaking it. Yeah, I don't know. Again, maybe it's in the original cut of the movie. Maybe because, like I said, I believe the original cut of the movie opens with that scene. So maybe we learn a little bit more information that way in the original cut. But I who knows? I don't know. So speaking of Enchantress and Incubus, the last note I wrote for this movie is, Diablo like rains down fire on Incubus and eventually becomes this like skeleton looking, crazy looking.
Yeah, it's almost like he's like a divine entity himself.
Right. Yeah. And I'm assuming like that's like super mode, he's like in beast mode or whatever you want to call it. And the fire is
final form.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That didn't kill Incubus. Right. But them setting off a bomb underneath him, that's what killed Incubus. Like I found that hard to believe. I would think Diablo would be much more powerful than whatever that little bomb was. I mean, it wasn't a little bomb, but whatever that bomb was that went off underneath the ground. I wouldn't think.
Yeah, why wouldn't they give the glory to Diablo?
Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, that bomb ended up killing Diablo too.
Yeah.
So, I guess it was a pretty powerful bomb, but I just thought that was weird. So yeah, everybody pretty much ends up back in prison. Deadshot does get to see his daughter though, and then Harley is going to be busted out by Joker. And
that was another thing that happens then and another time in the movie. I don't know if you noticed, but there's 2 times when they blow like a hole in a wall, and it's almost like a perfect oval shape.
Oh, really?
And it happens that time, and when Joker busts in to free
Harley.
I'm like, what is this explosive device that they're using that like makes these perfect shapes in concrete?
It's like remember in Batman and Robin when Robin like busts through the wall on the motorcycle and the hole in the wall is the exact shape of the Robin symbol. Do you remember that?
No.
Really?
Is this Batman and Robin or Batman Forever?
Batman and Robin. Yeah, it's when it's in the very, very beginning of the movie, like when they first.
I like want to pull that up right now.
You should. It's when they first meet Mr. Freeze. Batman, I think, shows up first and has like a small little fight with Freeze, and then Robin comes, flying through the wall on his motorcycle. And I think it's like it shows him burst through the wall, kind of cuts to Mr. Freeze like reacting, and then when it cuts back, you see in the background the hole in the wall is the exact shape of the Robin symbol. It's like a perfect Robin symbol hole.
It's like at that point, Joel Schumacher was just like, whatever. Let's just have fun with this.
Right. Somebody came up to him and was like, what if the hole is the Robin symbol? And he's like, he's just sitting there counting his money going, yeah, that's fine. That's cool. No, I don't know whose idea that was, but I do. It does make me laugh every time I see it.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
I mean, it's
a perfect example as to what that movie actually is.
Right, yeah. A cartoon, basically.
Yeah.
A live action kind of cartoon. Well, I don't have any more notes about Suicide Squad. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I don't think so. I think
kind of hit all the major notes.
Well, I don't know. We didn't go into detail about Harley.
Oh, that's true. We should talk about Harley.
That's pretty important.
That's we were saving that one for last. Yeah. I love Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. I actually, when I saw The Wolf of Wall Street, I remember thinking watching that movie like she would be the perfect Harley Quinn.
Wow.
And so when they announced her as Harley Quinn, I was like super excited because I thought that was perfect casting. And I think she does a great job with this. I think she's played Harley Quinn now in this one and Birds of Prey, and I think she's really good in both movies.
I've not seen Birds of Prey. I agree, but I'm different. So, like, I like her portrayal. I like the Harley Quinn she created.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it's not Harley Quinn.
Right.
But I'm okay with that for the movie that we got. One, it doesn't matter that much to me, but she was one of the more fun parts to watch, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just say that. I have not seen Wolf of Wall Street, so I've not seen her in anything else either.
Oh wow, okay. She's a good actress. She's done some good stuff. She did I, Tonya a couple years ago. That was really good, and like I said, Birds of Prey was pretty good, which I'm looking forward to talking about that with you. And Wolf of Wall Street, she was really good in, and yeah, I like Margot Robbie. She does some good stuff. She's a good actress. Australian. So yeah, we didn't. Obviously, that wasn't much about Harley Quinn, but I guess we covered that now. So
well, we talked about her relationship with the Joker,
right?
Which is a big part of the movie. We talked about how the team kind of later adopted her as.
Yeah, like you said, I like that they were, when they think she's dead, and then they see that she's still alive. You can tell that they're happy to see her. You know what I mean? Which is cool. And I like that, like, Captain Boomerang kept her bat, and so when she shows up, he gives her back the bat
exactly.
and stuff. So that was kind of cool.
She becomes kind of she becomes just the thing that they are there to protect, almost like a daughter or just the damsel. But at
the same time, she can take care of herself.
She can.
Right.
Well, sort of. The Joker comes and saves her. But.
Well, yeah. But she puts up a pretty good fight against all those creatures and everything. So.
She does. She can definitely hold her own. She's a strong girl. Crazy.
And she tricks the Enchantress at the end too.
There's also moments. How?
Well, the Enchantress.
Just remind me.
The Enchantress says something about joining me or whatever. And
Harley's right.
Like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And they're all like, "What are you talking about?" And she kneels in front of the Enchantress.
I actually did not like that part.
Oh really?
Because she gets to, like, the swords there. I don't remember what it is. To me, it was a little cheesy.
Gotcha.
I thought anyway. I thought her to be able to trick the Enchantress that easily. Just
right, yeah. I mean, the Enchantress should have seen the sword there or whatever it was. Yeah.
That and just I don't know. But where was I? There's a moment where I was wondering. I was like, is she actually? Obviously, I think there's a degree to this going on, but maybe even more than is coming across. I don't know. But is she tricking everyone to think that she's dumb and she's actually like not.
I don't know. I think that could be something with every version of Harley Quinn, I guess you could say, because Harley Quinn always kind of acts that way, but she is also a doctor, and
Right.
so it could be part of in this film. It could be effects of the acid,
Right.
Um,
And I
but
like that way better.
Right.
I would rather her just be a traditional. She's psychotic because of, well, she was already starting to go crazy because she was falling in love with the Joker, which
yeah.
is so crazy. Like, I'm assuming, like, I don't. The only other Harley Quinn I know, I never read the comics or anything, so I just know her from the animated series,
Right.
which
Well,
is
that's
where
where
she was created.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yep.
But obviously, the character was so beloved that they
Put her in the comics.
put her in the comics, and she's forever one of the main Batman characters now. What were we talking about?
Psychotic and not dumb,
Yes.
or dumb but smart.
Right.
You like that version of her being the acid.
Yes. We're getting there. I don't remember where I was going with that, honestly.
Well, I'll just bounce off what you said and say, I like that too. I like the idea that the acid has affected her brain, or maybe just her relationship with the Joker has affected her brain.
That's what we were talking about. Was that she was already falling in love with the Joker? So I
Yeah.
was going to say I don't know the deep details, in the comic book lore exactly, as to how she falls in love with the Joker. Why? But it never made any sense to me why. Like, I get that you're trying to make the Joker just so... I get the idea, and it's a cool concept. But it's one that I think has to be... Like how we were talking about how Diablo... accepts the team as a family so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But with the Quinzel falling in love with Joker so quickly, I want that story.
Yeah, I agree. I was gonna say, we don't really see it in this movie. Like the very first scene we see with Harleen Quinzel, she's already in love with him basically, because she's
like right there because he's saying stuff, and she's like really intrigued by it, like,
right.
And you can tell it's already been happening for a little bit.
Right. Yeah. And he asks her, he's like, "Can you do me a favor or something?" And she goes, "Anything." I mean, yeah. So it's like she's already hooked at that point, basically. And I would like to see how it happens. And I think it'd make an interesting movie, or at least a backstory to see how the Joker manipulates her and how he gets her to fall in love with him and whatnot. Because, I'd be very interested to see that. But she does. I was going to mention, she does act kind of dumb here and there throughout the movie. But at the same time, there's one scene where she asks Deadshot if he's ever fallen in love, and Deadshot says no. And she calls him on it or whatever, and he basically says, "I can't. Do you think I could kill all these people and still believe in something like love or whatever?" And she goes, "Textbook sociopath," or something like that. So it's like her psychologist kind of background comes out a little bit right there, which I thought was kind of cool. But yeah, I think her intelligence is there. I think she's very smart. She just kind of is also crazy, and it comes out almost kind of like dumb, but it's really just kind of crazy.
Yeah, but I think she does act ditzy.
Yeah.
Like, she acts like, nothing against blondes, but a stereotypical
Right.
what people say a blonde acts like, and they put that in there. So I don't know. To me, like I said, I almost like the question of, is she playing all these guys,
right,
and like just analyzing them as a, like, yes, she's crazy. There's no doubt about that. But
right.
how much? Like, how much did she retain of her not being ditzy?
Right. And she's unpredictable, and I think that's what I think is kind of cool about her. It's very similar to the Joker. The Joker's unpredictable, but she's kind of got a different unpredictability, which is...
Waller actually makes the comment that she's crazier than the Joker, and I don't know if I like the idea of them going that route. Like, right. I think you could say she could be as crazy as the Joker.
Yeah.
But I could... They definitely make you wonder. She has crazy in her eyes a lot in this movie. So,
yeah. Well, I think maybe it's about time to rate the film. What do you want to give Suicide Squad?
So, like I said, I think I went up half a star, and I'll stick to that. And I was originally going to give it 2 out of 5 stars, and I'm going to give it 2.5 out of 5.
Yeah. I'm torn on it because, like you said, the more we talked about it, the more I kind of enjoyed those moments. As a whole, I don't think it really works, but I think those moments are fun. And I like the characters, and I like, just bits and pieces of the movie. And when I first saw it, I think I said I gave it like a B+, and I don't think I'd go that high anymore. But at the same time, I don't know exactly what my star ratings, how that like translates into letter grades. But I'm kind of leaning towards, I'm kind of leaning in between 2.5 to 3, but I'm going to go with 3. Just because of, like I said, some of the scenes we talked about today made me be like, yeah, that was pretty good. That was a good movie. Or not a good movie, but that was a good scene. That was a good moment.
Mm-hmm.
So... yeah, I'm going to go with 3 stars, I think.
Cool.
Well, we'd love to know what you think about Suicide Squad. You can always leave us a comment on cinemaheroes.com or our Facebook, facebook.com/SM and SM Podcast. You can tweet at us on Twitter at CinemaHeroes. That's our Instagram handle as well. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave a comment. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, all that fun stuff. I think that about wraps it up for this episode, though. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzel.
As always, thanks for listening and thanks for subscribing.